Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Following news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please, let's go to the headlines.
Tonight, breaking news. GOP senators right now facing a critical test for President Trump's so-called Big Beautiful Bill ahead of a July 4th deadline. The warning from the FBI about hackers allegedly targeting airlines and severe storms on the move as millions prepare for holiday travel. First, a big day stretching into the evening on Capitol Hill as the Senate holds a rare Saturday session. Lawmakers trying to persuade last-minute holdouts to get President Trump's mega spending bill across the finish line. The bill facing major hurdles with some Republicans balking at the price tag, estimated to increase the deficit by nearly $3 trillion, and what the bill now says about tax cuts and Medicaid. Also tonight, the new warning from the FBI, hackers allegedly targeting airlines. This as Hawaiian Airlines and Canada's WestJet hit with cyber attacks this month. And with 72 million Americans expected to hit the roads and the skies for the 4th of July holiday, the severe weather threat, the Midwest and Northeast, bracing for thunderstorms and damaging winds. Our weather team tracking it all. Honoring the Minnesota lawmaker Melissa Hortman and her husband gunned down in their home 2 weeks ago after what prosecutors called a political assassination. Former President Joe Biden and former Vice President Kamala Harris among those at the funeral. Thousands lining the streets of Tehran as Iran held state funerals for military commanders and nuclear scientists killed during the conflict with Israel. And what President Trump said about the possibility of bombing Iran again. The new twist in that hacking class action lawsuit against a former University of Michigan assistant football coach. The NFL's Jim Harbaugh now added as a defendant, what we're learning tonight. The billionaire and his bride, the new details and the protests on the lavish Venice wedding of Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez. Bruce Springsteen offering fans something they've never heard before. And the tearful tribute from the NHL draft, the 17-year-old #1 pick honoring his late mother.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York.
President Trump didn't hesitate when asked if more strikes against Iran were on the table.
If the intelligence reports conclude that Iran can enrich uranium to a level that concerns you, would you consider bombing the country again?
Without question, absolutely.
Trump is also confident that the rogue nation wasn't able to hide any uranium.
Do you think that the Iran regime hid some of the enriched uranium before the strikes?
No, you mean did they take it out of the deep one?
Because you were pretty clear you can't have a weapon, you're going to have to come to the talk, something's going to happen.
I don't think they did. No, I think, first of all, it's very hard to do. It's very dangerous to do. It's very heavy, very, very heavy. It's a very hard thing to do. Plus, we didn't give much notice because they didn't know we were coming until just, then. And nobody thought we'd go after that site because everybody said that site is impenetrable.
The evidence is clear that Iran's nuclear facilities were obliterated by the U.S., but Democrats refuse to accept Trump's success.
We may be lacking some of the real factual background that's necessary to evaluate how much of the job remains to be done in stopping the nuclear-armed Iran.
To me, it still appears that we have only set back the Iranian nuclear program by a handful of months.
President Trump said that the nuclear stockpile was completely and totally obliterated. I did not receive an adequate answer to that question.
The far-left media joined in on the speculation, citing a leaked, low-confidence intel report that doubted the success of the strikes. Now, President Trump is blaming Democrats for the leaks and calling for their prosecution. But while Dems trash Trump on TV, they're praising his strike behind closed doors.
One of the Democrats that you just had on your program was in the confidential briefing in the SCIF today and said to General Kane, the operation that you ran will go down in American history as the greatest military operation ever conducted. They then go on TV and do everything possible politically to undermine the administration. This is just pure
Tonight, a major test for President Trump's agenda. The Senate pushing to pass what the president calls his big, beautiful bill, facing massive hurdles and a marathon debate. What lies ahead? Plus, what's in the bill, what didn't make it, and what it all means for you if it passes. Canada strikes back, announcing new tariffs on the U.S. after President Trump called off trade talks. A funnel cloud touches down overnight, and thunderstorms force a ground stop at a major airport. We're tracking severe weather and the impact it could have on holiday travel. The former president and vice president pay their respects to the Minnesota lawmaker killed in a targeted attack. Protests against a migrant detention center nicknamed Alligator Alcatraz under construction in the Florida Everglades. As the ceasefire holds, thousands take to the streets in Iran a week after the U.S. strike. The calls for vengeance against Israel and the new questions about peace in the region. Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez's star-studded wedding in Venice. But the big party is also sparking protests. Beyonce's Cowboy Carter tour is drawing huge crowds and now sparking a surprising new trend. As there's good news tonight about a town going above and beyond to help one family who needed it most.
This is NBC Nightly News with Jose. On this Saturday night, the next play for Canada in this high-stakes game of cross-border poker. President Trump says America has all the cards. Is Canada shelving the tax on big tech companies in the cards? And no longer legally protected in the United States, while the risk for deportation has sharply increased for hundreds of thousands of Haitians in America. Taking the temperature of Albertans on a heated topic.
The idea of there being tiers of immigrants should be concerning.
Immigration, the subject of a provincial survey. The controversial questions it poses. Plus, emotional tribute. Future NHL star honors his mother after being chosen first overall in the entry draft. Global National reporting tonight, Anthony Robart. Good evening and thank you for joining us. Well, Canada is once again facing an uncertain week, locked in a heated dispute with the United States over a digital services tax. Now, yesterday, President Donald Trump announced the termination of all trade talks with Canada and even threatened new tariffs. Well, this is all over Canada's plan to tax U.S. tech giants like Google and Meta. Mackenzie Gray is following the story for us. So, Mackenzie, where do things stand today?
The Prime Minister is working today, Anthony, huddling with his top advisor, but there's no new comments from them or anyone from the government about the latest trade hiccup, with U.S. President Donald Trump saying the Americans won't negotiate unless Canada drops the incoming digital services tax. The first payments on that tax are due on Monday for any large tech company that does make more than $20 million in Canada. They're going to have to pay 3% of the money they make in Canada, retroactive back to 2022. Now, it's not just the Trump administration. The Biden administration also said these taxes unfairly target U.S. tech companies, and they say it violates the new NAFTA agreement, something Trump has repeatedly ignored by imposing tariffs on Canada. Ottawa points to the fact that numerous European countries have similar taxes in place. Now, walking away from the table is just the latest erratic move by the president, who has applied, removed, changed, and threatened all kinds of different tariffs on Canada, but this time he's only said he's walking away from negotiations and seeming to threaten new tariffs in 7 days, but that is a much more impactful move, Anthony, compared to the last flare-up when steel and aluminum tariffs were doubled to 50%.
And
Tonight, a stormy start to the weekend. Thunderstorms in the south. The nation's busiest airport hammered. Cancellations rippling nationwide.
I'm up in Atlanta. It was weather that caused hundreds of cancellations on Delta. A lot of people are frustrated here. Now it could impact you.
Severe weather spinning off this huge tornado near Bismarck, North Dakota. The heat and humidity surging again for millions. Also tonight, Senate scramble.
I'm Nicole Killian on Capitol Hill, where senators work around the clock to try to deliver the president his big, beautiful bill. What's tucked inside the massive package?
Final farewell. Mourners honor Minnesota lawmaker Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark 2 weeks after their murders. Iran holds a state funeral for top commanders and nuclear scientists. CBS's MTS Tayeb is there.
Well, we're here in Tehran's Revolutionary Square, and the people we've been speaking to have told us just how angry they are, not just at Israel, but at the United States.
New despair in Gaza.
I'm Deborah Patter in Jerusalem. More than 60 killed in Gaza, despite President Trump saying a truce could happen within a week.
And later, a wedding weekend in Venice. The buzz and the backlash.
This is the CBS Weekend News from New York with Jerika Duncan.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us.
Tonight on PBS News Weekend, a former top CDC vaccine expert explains why she resigned in protest and why she fears that changing vaccine recommendations could cost lives. Then how artificial intelligence is helping scientists track the wide-ranging migration patterns of humpback whales. And in our Hidden History series, pioneering comedian and activist Robin Tyler, who used humor to campaign for LGBTQ rights and fight homophobia.
Humor is the razor-sharp edge of the truth. It's pain and anger made funny. So in order to make a joke, you have to believe in it.
So drop us a line at gbnews.com/.
Good morning. The government demands urgent answers from the BBC.
After its live coverage of Glastonbury aired anti-Israel.
Free! Have you heard this one though? Death to the IDF! Death to the IDF! Well, it's leaving many asking if the BBC's vetting was inadequate. Could the chaos continue, though, into today's final performances?
The Prime Minister admits he was unprepared for the scale of the backbench rebellion brewing over benefit cuts, as MPs prepare, of course, to vote on that bill.
Who are firmly stuck in the past. Take Farage, a wolf in Wall Street clothing.
Well, taking the fight to Farage, Keir Starmer wards Wales off voting for Reform UK in their elections next year, but is it too late for Labour to win back Wales?
And we're in store to record the hottest June day on record. It's on the cards as the heatwave shows no sign of abating.
And this is what we're debating this hour. Should the government have a say in what you choose to eat? There's this crackdown on supermarkets if they don't promote healthier food. We'll talk about it in about 15 minutes. The Three Lions are roaring again. England's under-21s left it late, but Jonathan Rowe's dramatic extra-time winner meant Lee Carsley's side retained the Euros at the expense of old rivals. Germany will have all the reaction throughout the morning from a Mensa's night in Bratislava.
It was a warm start to the weekend for many of us, and those temperatures are on the rise into the start of next week, likely peaking on Monday or Tuesday. But join me later for the full forecast with all the details.
Headline news this hour. Growing political turmoil in Thailand as thousands protest in Bangkok against Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra and her handling of a border dispute with Cambodia. Protest leaders say they do not want another coup, but will not object if the military intervenes. Heavy rains and flash floods killed at least 32 people in northern Pakistan. Half of them were children. Rescue efforts are ongoing as officials warn of the risk of more rain and floods in the coming days. The UN's nuclear watchdog chief, Rafael Grossi, says Iran will likely be able to enrich uranium in a matter of months despite the recent US strikes on key nuclear sites. And that's the latest from the CNN newsroom.
You're about to watch Japan Hour, brought to you by Sumitomo Corporation. MUFG, committed to empowering a brighter future. Sipea, summer fares are now available. And IHI. French Connections Plus, presented by Gini Godula and Florence Gilmino.
Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak here on France 24. Our headlines this Sunday. Israeli airstrikes killed dozens in Gaza as a ceasefire deal is said to be getting closer. Donald Trump continues to pressure Israeli prosecutors to drop their case against Benjamin Netanyahu. The Israeli Prime Minister has been accused of dragging out the war to avoid prosecution. We'll have analysis from our correspondent Noga Tarnopolsky. Tens of thousands defy a government ban to attend Budapest's annual Pride Parade, among them dozens of European lawmakers, a celebration of LGBTQ love, and an open rebuke of Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. And a public service announcement for all smokers in France. As of this Sunday, it's illegal to light up on beaches, in public parks, or while waiting for the bus. The new rules are aimed at protecting children from secondhand smoke.
She should. Watch out.
Today, Israel claims it's killed a senior Hamas leader as Palestinian authorities say at least 81 people have been killed by Israeli airstrikes in Gaza. Human remains found and a man arrested in the search for missing Melbourne man Joshua Bishop. Serbian police clash with protesters who are demanding an end to the president's 12-year reign. And hundreds of thousands marched through Latin American cities in support of Pride Day. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Melissa McKay. The Israeli military has eliminated Hamas in airstrikes which have killed at least 81 civilians in Gaza. The IDF says Hakam Mohammed Issa al-Issa played a significant role in the planning and execution of the October 7 attacks. Health workers, meanwhile, say 12 people were killed near a
Good morning, it's 6 o'clock on today's programme. Controversy at Glastonbury as the Israeli embassy condemned hateful chants.
And England's under-21s are champions of Europe. The Young Lions beat Germany 3-2 in extra time.
It's Sunday the 29th of June. The government demands answers after Kill the IDF chants are broadcast live at Glastonbury. Elsewhere, the Prime Minister defends his U-turn on welfare reform, saying he was distracted by the NATO summit. A 7-year-old child has died and another is in a critical condition after a tree collapsed at a park in Essex. A government plans could see supermarkets fined if they don't encourage shoppers to swap sugary snacks for fruit and vegetables.
And it's sports celebrations for England after a dramatic win over Germany in the under-21 Euros final.
Hello, good morning, and thanks for joining us here on The Breakfast Show. Police are investigating comments made by performers while on stage at Glastonbury. The rap-punk duo Bob Dylan led the crowds at the festival's West Hull stage in chants of Free Palestine and death to the IDF. It comes after Irish rap...
GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel. This is British Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On British Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
6:31, amber heat health alerts are in force across much of England. The country facing its second heat wave in the last couple of weeks.
Amazing. Temperatures are going to soar into the 30s this weekend, peaking tomorrow when Wimbledon opens with highs of 34 degrees, and you'll wonder how hot it's going to get on centre court.
Oh yes, that's sort of weather journalist Nathan Rao. Morning, Nathan. What can we expect and why?
Well, Stephen, you can expect it to get warm. In fact, if you're just waking up right now and tuning into GB News, you'll already feel that it is incredibly warm out there already, and it's only 6 o'clock. And yes, as you said, it is going to get even warmer. The Met Office think that this heat wave, which is 3 days in a row or more of temperatures reaching threshold conditions, and we're going to safely do this, the Met Office think this heat wave is going to peak either tomorrow or Tuesday, probably tomorrow in the south and the southeast of the country, when we could, as you say, get temperatures in the low to mid-30s. Now, the record for June is 35.6, and as you say, Wimbledon is starting tomorrow, and the record for the start of Wimbledon is just over 29 degrees, so it could be the hottest start of Wimbledon on record, but getting very, very warm over the next couple of days. And then as we go through midweek, if you don't like the hot weather, you'll be relieved because we're going to get something fresher in from the west. But certainly...
This is Asia Now.
Good afternoon, it's 12 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 9:30 in New Delhi, and 11 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Malika Silveraji. Your headlines this hour. Growing political turmoil in Thailand as thousands protest in Bangkok against Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra and her handling of the border dispute with Cambodia. Protest leaders say they do not want another coup, but will not object if the military intervenes. Heavy rains and flash floods killed at least 32 people in northern Pakistan, half of them being children. The rescue efforts are ongoing as officials warn of the risk of more rain and floods in the coming days. The UN's nuclear watchdog chief, Rafael Grossi, says Iran won't likely be able to reproduce and enrich uranium in a matter of months despite the recent US strikes on key nuclear sites.
This is DW News, and these are our top stories. Huge crowds have turned out for Budapest's Pride in defiance of a ban by the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. Organizers say 200,000 people marched through the capital in support of LGBTQ rights. Orban's government has banned public gatherings of the community, supposedly to protect children. Marchers were threatened with fines and jail terms. A rally in the Serbian capital Belgrade against the populist president Aleksandar Vučić ended with clashes and dozens of arrests. Protesters are calling for earlier Republicans in the U.S. are made closer to ending Donald Trump's signature package of tax breaks and spending cuts to pass a procedural vote. The president wants the massive bill delivered by the holiday. The legislation would cut funding for healthcare while increasing spending on the military, border security, and deportations of undocumented migrants. This is DW News from Berlin. You can find much news on our website. That's at dw.com.
Africa News. The news. Speaking before the Security Council Friday, the head of the UN mission in Congo, Bintu Keita, called a peace deal with Rwanda a major step towards ending years of conflict. Kinshasa's representative to the UN called on Kigali to abide by the terms of the agreement brokered by Washington. This morning, Rwanda signed, with the mediation of the American administration and with the state of Qatar as a witness, the peace agreement between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. In that agreement, Rwanda commits to withdrawing unconditionally all of its troops from DRC's territory. We hope that this time, the United States of America, responsible for mediation, will be able to impose sanctions on Rwanda commensurate with their misconduct if they again fail to comply. Rwandan Ambassador Martin Ngoga, for his part, called the agreement a chance to address his country's security threats and interests.
An important part of today's agreement is the provision for the parties to form a standing joint security coordination mechanism, whose first order of business will be to oversee the implementation of the concept of operations for the neutralization of FDLR and the lifting of Rwanda's defensive measures as approved under the Rwanda process in November last year.
The deal has been touted as an important step towards peace in Congo, where a conflict with more than 100 armed groups, the most important backed by Rwanda, has killed millions since the 1990s. After 2 years of conflict, nearly 25 million people in Sudan face acute food insecurity, according to the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification. With agriculture ruined and food aid a problem, people are resorting to eating wheat to survive.
People really are in extreme need after 2 years of conflict, especially some of the areas that are just recently accessible. People need access to all kinds of basic services and basic items, including food.
Food insecurity is especially bad in areas in the Kordofan region, the Nuba Mountains, and Darfur, where El Fasher and Zamzam camps are inaccessible, according to aid groups.
People are eating leftover peanut waste. So in Arabic it's called olbas, and it's basically what's left over after using peanuts to produce peanut oil. So it really is leftover food waste made out of peanut shells, which is usually used as animal fodder. And that's what those are the kind of extreme measures that people have been resorting to be able to survive. We've also received reports of people eating grass, people eating leaves.
Aid workers say the war spiked market prices and limited aid delivery in a country that was once the region's food basket. Sudan officially denies the existence of famine. It says food insecurity only exists in areas controlled by the rebel RSF.
Thank you very much for giving time to Amir Shackle 5858. I am Amir Shackle. Have a good life. Bye-bye.